Emilia Pérez.
Emilia Pérez.
Amal from Emilia Pérez. Mi Camino from Emilia Pérez.
Emilia Pérez, France.
Emilia Pérez.
Emilia Pérez. Karla Sofía Gascón, Emilia Pérez.
Jacques Audiard, Emilia Pérez. Emilia Pérez, nominees to be determined.
Oh, hey, easy there, Gretzky. Shh. You know, we should hang out. You know, have lunch sometime.
Oh, okay.
Where can I give you my phone number?
This is bullshit!
You haven't aged a peep.
On January 23, 2025, the nominations for the 97th Annual Academy Awards were announced. A film by the name of Emilia Pérez came away with 13 Oscar nominations, more than any other film this year. Emilia Pérez, a Spanish-language film set in Mexico but shot in France, written and directed by Jacques Audiard, a Frenchman, about a drug cartel leader that kidnaps a lawyer to help fake their death, uproot their wife and children to another country, all to transition from a man into a woman. And none of the three leads are actually from Mexico. And it's a musical. To put this into perspective, the record for the most nominations for a single movie is held by 3 films, each receiving 14 nominations: All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land. And just behind them are the 13 Nominations Club. This puts it on the same level as others with 13 nominations, including last year's winner, Oppenheimer, Gone with the Wind, Chicago, and Forrest Gump.
Are you stupid or something? I'm as stupid as stupid does.
Not to mention it has more nominations than films like Return of the King and The Godfather. Even without the mass appeal and niche subject matter, a movie that earns so much praise, garners so many accolades, surely must be a cinematic masterpiece, right?
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men, from penis to vagina. Adam's apple reduction.
Yes.
Or not. From its manufactured portrayal of Mexico, played out depictions of violent Latin American drug cartels, phony female empowerment posturing, stereotypical toxic Latino machismo, ham-fisted service-level handling of trans themes, and strange musical numbers that are an insult to the very essence of what makes a compelling musical and has zero connection to its Mexican characters, it's about as nuanced as a telenovela villain. Now, I would like to preface my critiques by stating that my goal is not to vindictively hate on anyone involved in the making of this film. I don't wish anyone harm, nor would I ever advocate for anyone to target those involved. But in an age of disingenuous influencers, corporate storytelling turning out IP-driven sequels and remakes, and widely available AI tools, hell, my videos have been mistaken for AI, one must always strive to think critically and challenge what is put in front of us, especially in 2025, where there is no excuse to be this lazy and inauthentic. But more on that later. To understand how we got here, we must understand where we've been, because those who don't understand the past are doomed to repeat it. The film industry began in the late 19th century with the invention of motion picture cameras and the development of techniques to capture and project moving images. The industry grew rapidly during the early 20th century, with Hollywood emerging as its global hub in the 1910s and 1920s. So the film industry has only been around for about 130 years, evolving from silent black and white films to the advanced digital projections we have today. Enter the Academy Awards, aka the Oscars. Since 1929, the annual award ceremony has honored cinematic achievements in film organized by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. It celebrates excellence in various categories, including acting, directing, writing, and technical contributions. And toward the late 20th century, it grew into one of the most prestigious and globally recognized award ceremonies and television events in entertainment. Millions of people around the world tuned in to find out if their favorite films from the previous year would walk away with the little golden statues, take in the fashion, And when the hosts were good,
What, give up show business? See, this is an omen. I didn't want to do the show this year, but the Academy talked me into it.
have a laugh or two at the expense of their favorite stars that still had some mystique about them in the days before the internet and streaming killed the movie star. But it has seen a steady decline in quality and appeal over the past 2 decades for several reasons. Some would say they've become out of touch, honoring films that only resonate with critics and industry professionals due to prioritizing socio-political messaging over telling a good story.
The smug from George Clooney's Academy Award acceptance speech has already crossed into Arizona.
What the hell is that?
The thing about winning an Academy Award, it always beats it, you know. We are a little bit out of touch in Hollywood rights when it wasn't really popular. We talk about AIDS when it was just being whispered. The Patty McDaniel an Oscar in 1939.
The cord-cutting revolution, streaming, and the pandemic have also had a profound impact on our viewing habits. Then there are all the high-profile scandals and controversies that have come to light, such as the exploitative mistreatment early starlets had to endure, the unmasking of powerful figures like Harvey Weinstein, #Oscar so white, the La La Land fiasco.
La La Land.
Oppression is the enemy of civilization. So keep dreaming, because the dreams we dream today will provide the love, the compassion, and the humanity that will narrate the stories of our lives tomorrow. Fred?
To my family, maman, papa, Jeff, Mama, je vous adore. Matt Pluff, you kicked this off. And Damien Chazelle, we're standing on your shoulders. We lost, by the way, but, you know.
Guys, I'm sorry. No, there's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
Moonlight won.
Come on, this is not a joke.
This is not a joke. I'm afraid they read the wrong thing.
This is not a joke. Moonlight has won Best Picture. Moonlight, Best Picture.
The slap heard round the world, and the countless politically charged acceptance speeches.
So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and
The Oscars are no longer the singular cultural event they once were, and Hollywood no longer has a chokehold on the film and television industry. But I remember the days it all meant something. At least, we thought it did. Since its debut at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, where it won the Jury Prize and the shared Best Actress Award for its female ensemble, Emilia Pérez has been a hotbed of controversy and discourse. It all came to a head with a perfect storm of its wide release on Netflix, multiple Golden Globe wins, including one for Zoe Saldaña, and its historic 13 Oscar nominations. But the online hate parade is coming from every direction. How does a film that offends practically every community it depicts become the most nominated film at the 2025 Academy Awards?
Me, myself, and I want to know.
From the story breakdown, production, casting, and epic fallout, I will attempt to unpack this calamity so that you don't have to. The story centers on Juan Manitas Belmonte, a notorious Mexican cartel leader who desires to leave a life of crime and live authentically as a woman. To achieve this, Manitas kidnaps an underappreciated lawyer named Rita to fake his death, move his family, and facilitate his transition into Emilia Pérez. You know, the usual midlife crisis stuff. And it may seem like I'm making light of the trans experience, but that's how little depth or nuance is given to Emilia's backstory or desire to become a woman. Every potential problem or obstacle that you think they'd face on the road to achieving this goal isn't addressed. The film doesn't want you to think about how difficult this would be, even with all the millions of dollars at their disposal. Rita meets Manitas' wife Jessica and 2 young sons, then must go in search of a doctor who can perform multiple gender affirmation surgeries at once and set them all up for their new lives. Little regard is shown for what this will do to Rita besides make her rich, but to be fair, Rita doesn't seem to have any moral issue about working for a murderous narco and also gets away clean. It's also kind of hard to believe that Manitas could disappear without facing some kind of retaliation, but they get away and become Emilia with no complications, and the story jumps 4 years when she's ready to track Rita down, living her life abroad, and demands to be reunited with the children she so easily sent away. Jessie and the children, of course, have no say in the matter and are pulled from their lives in Switzerland to go back to Mexico City to live with Manitas' mysterious long-lost aunt Emilia in a more serious play on Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, sir, I saw it. Oh, the terrorist ran that way. It was a run by fruiting.
All the Mrs. Doubtfire jokes aside, that movie has a lot more heart and goodwill toward Robin Williams' character Daniel, who yes is shown to be immature in the beginning, but he always remains a loving and dedicated father whose devastation over not being able to be with his children leads him to come up with the crazy plan to pose as a Scottish nanny to stay firmly in their lives.
I love them with all my heart. And the idea of someone telling me I can't be with them, I can't see them every day, it's like someone saying I can't have air.
Emilia's relationship with the children is never really established to be that important. We only see one brief scene with them pre-transition, and why she couldn't just go to Switzerland to live out this fake aunt scenario there is not really clear, but they must go back to fake Mexico because the plot needs them to. You would think that someone who faked their death maybe would lay low upon returning to their home country, but nope. She's out here starting up an organization to help the families of missing people who have been victimized by narcos like she once was. Rita goes as far as to ask Emilia if she ever thinks about everything Manitas did, all the horrors, to which Emilia responds by saying, "I don't know who Manitas is." This plays into the misguided perception that the act of transitioning alone somehow absolves you for your past self. It's my understanding that most trans people don't think this way and is a harmful stereotype to perpetuate, especially in an award-winning film being praised by an industry that proclaims itself to be such a strong ally. This isn't a death, nor is it a rebirth. Emilia and Jessie's growing tension comes to a head when Jessie reveals that she's taken back up with a man named Gustavo, who's also a criminal of sorts, but that part is never made clear. Seriously, every man in this movie is a violent abuser, but she plans to run away with him and get married anyways. Of course, Emilia takes issue with the prospect of being separated from the children she just got back. The violent response by Emilia gives off the impression that she is reverting to Manitas, complete with his voice. This plays into another trope that being transgender is an act, something you can take off. Jessie tries to abscond with the children, resulting in Emilia cutting her off. The final act seems to come out of nowhere, as if there's a whole chunk left out. But suddenly, Rita gets a couple of Emilia's fingers delivered to her and a ransom call from Gustavo demanding Rita return the money that technically is Jessie's, as she believes herself to be a widow. Rita puts together a small army. Now, where she gets all these people and guns is unclear, but this is Mexico, so of course it's that easy. And they head to the rendezvous point. They get in a big shootout. Emilia finally comes clean to Jessie about who she is, doesn't say she's sorry or anything, and gets shoved into a trunk of a car by Gustavo trying to escape the chaos. And just like that, Jessie has a change of heart, freaks out on Gustavo, causing him to drive off a cliff, and the car bursts into flames, killing everyone inside. The final song honors Emilia, with the well-meaning people of their community proclaiming her to be saint-like despite not knowing about Emilia's past, which feels like a slap in the face to the real victims of cartel and gang violence. Emilia is never held accountable, and that somehow is supposed to be a satisfying ending. Can you imagine if at the end of Breaking Bad, Walt not only got away scot-free, but was heralded as a pillar of his community and a loving father after everything we see him put them through? Then we wouldn't have one of the best endings to one of the best shows ever made. Making a film, any film, is a great undertaking, and many below-the-line workers did their best with the material they were given. No doubt it provided a lot of good work for the French production staff, but that's just it. Why wasn't this filmed in Mexico? And why in 2024, when there's a thriving film and television industry in Mexico and many other Latin American countries, was there only one native-born Mexican included in the cast, and she is relegated to a side character that's not even worth mentioning when breaking down the plot. It's no secret that entertainment feeds off trends, and once one thing works, they continue to do it until they run said trend into the ground. It starts with one successful zombie show, then we get 5 more, then movies and merchandise, and before you know it, we're all sick of it and the trend dies. Pop culture is filled with these cycles. Like with fashion, everything comes back around, and so is the case with their fascination with Latin American cartels.
Say hello to my little friend!
How many countless times do we need to see Mexicans, Colombians, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, etc. portrayed as violent drug-dealing criminals? It's exhausting, overdone to the point of being uninteresting, and trivializes this deeply sensitive real issue that's a blight upon Latin American communities. So when it's put into a movie like this, I have to ask myself, why? Did it serve the plot? The answer is no. This film did not need to be about Mexicans. It was produced and shot in France. Why not make it about a French trans woman? Or if they were hell-bent on Karla Sofía Gascón playing the titular character, have it take place in Spain. Drug dealers exist all over the world. It's pretty clear, though, they wanted to capitalize on the Narcos trend and were thrilled to get well-known American actresses of Latin American descent to round out the cast. The casting director even admitted that they changed Rita and Jesse's origins from being natively born Mexican women to fit their backgrounds because, according to her, they were the best actors for the roles.
As Jesse, Rita, and Emilia, they were all Mexican characters. So we did a big search. We were open, and we did a big search in Mexico and in the US and in Spain and all Latin America. And then we wanted to keep it really authentic. But at the end of the day, the best actors who embodied these characters are the ones that are right here, right? So we had to figure out how to adjust authenticity, which I'm sure you ladies also said something, with the accents and, you know, them not being necessarily native Mexican. It was a big search, and, you know, we saw a bunch of actresses everywhere. And for the role of Emilia, Jacques wanted it to be authentic and wanted a trans actor to play the role. There was no question about that.
They sacrificed one form of authenticity for another, which is ironic because the trans authenticity they were so concerned with is being highly criticized by trans and LGBTQ+ voices who are offended by Emilia's storyline. To think if they would have cast native-born Mexican actors, to which there are many, they could have at least avoided the criticism by native Spanish speakers who require subtitles to understand Selena Gomez's Spanish.
Hasta me duele la pinche vulva nada más de acordarme de ti.
Right. Because language matters. When a story integrates multiple languages into the narrative, it can serve so many functions to progress the characters and plot forward. Misunderstandings can be a source of humor or incredible tension. Take a film like *Inglourious Basterds*, for example. Another multi-Oscar-nominated movie that integrates language and cultural differences into its narrative. Language plays a huge part in how the characters evade or navigate through high-stakes situations. One wrong pronunciation or culturally inaccurate gesture could be their downfall. This is beautifully exemplified by the underground bar scene where a British commando disguised as a German officer gives himself away simply by putting up the wrong set of fingers.
3 glasses. The order 3 glasses. That's the German 3.
Hence the beauty of casting multilingual actors or native speakers. It can be done. Anything less is just lazy. With the 3 leads not being from Mexico and none of the principal photography taking place there, this is Memoirs of a Geisha all over again. It suffered from the same criticism for shooting most of the movie on California sound stages and all 3 main female roles going to non-Japanese actresses, who were Chinese, and Chinese-Malaysian respectively. And being that it was a Western production, it was shot in English, so they had to feed several of the actors their English lines and fix the pronunciation issues in post. But it's a beautifully made film with notable performances and doesn't suffer from half the story problems Emilia Pérez does. But looking back to the early days, when resources were scarce and the industry was still quite insulated to North America, it became common practice to film on sound stages, substitute one place for another, and cast actors with no real connection to a character's ethnicity or cultural background. There are the most blatant early examples, like Mickey Rooney's portrayal of a Japanese man in Breakfast at Tiffany's, and John Wayne playing Genghis Khan in The Conqueror, and on it went. We didn't know what we didn't know, and the viewing public was fine giving studios a pass for inaccuracies. No doubt some of it was intentional, while others were born out of ignorance, and then there are the creators with noble intentions who legitimately thought they were doing right by the marginalized communities featured in their works. That being said, they were of their time and shouldn't be censored or altered to meet the standards of today.
I'm sorry, isn't this character Long Dong Duck, like, kind of racist?
Not kind of, extremely racist.
So why do you like this movie?
Why are you even asking that question? Hello, Jake Ryan?
You can still watch and enjoy a piece of media from the past with the understanding that it was of its time and should be seen through the lens of when it was made. But here's the thing, we don't live in the dark ages anymore. We aren't cut off from each other, and information is available at lightning speed. So why does this continue to happen? Mexico is not some far-off exotic place. It's a country that, like any other, has very real issues that adversely affect its people, but it's also beautiful. If a country plays a pivotal role in the contents of a story, it deserves to be respected and shown as authentically as possible. In the case that a production cannot afford to shoot on location, allowances can be made, but the director of Emilia Pérez made a choice to shoot on a soundstage in France and to forgo any attempt at showing off any semblance of real Mexican culture or its people. This critique extends to literary works that pilfer names, phrases, or appropriate whole cultures to make their stories sound more exotic. There's a whole slew of books out there that have rose to prominence off the backs of using Welsh and Irish mythology as the foundation for their fantasy worlds. Creative works that draw from either real-world events or root their story in a living culture need to take care and show them the respect they deserve. Do so and you will be rewarded. Take your example from productions like 2024's Shogun, which went to great lengths to respect Japanese history and traditions, or 2019's Chernobyl miniseries, where series creator Craig Mazin did everything he could to become an expert on the subject matter, respect the living survivors, and made a creative choice to not have the actors put on a fake Ukrainian accent because it would sound comical.
No Russian accents.
Right. Yeah. Big decision that we made early on.
And what propelled that decision, and when did you make it, and what was the thinking?
Well, we had an initial thought that maybe what we would do, we didn't want to do the Boris and Natasha. It's the Russian accent can turn comic with very little effort. So at first we thought maybe we would just have people do these sort of vaguely Eastern European sort of, so if I'm talking like this, I'm not really doing a strong accent, but it's a little. And what we found very quickly was that actors will act accents.
Yes.
They will not act. They will act accents. And we were losing everything about these people that we kind of loved. Honestly, I think maybe after one or two auditions, we just said, okay, new rule, we're not doing that anymore. In telling a story like Chernobyl, you never want to feel like you're helping the drama. The drama is dramatic enough. The tragedy is tragic enough. We approached all of this with as much humility and sensitivity as we could. I had them, a number of people, read through the scripts to say, does this feel culturally accurate? Have I made mistakes? What would you suggest would be more true to your experience? So we tried to take all that into account, and I think we were fairly successful.
Both shows were received with widespread acclaim for their level of respect and authenticity. With technology evolving and the advent of smaller cameras, mobile equipment, and more robust financing, so too has the scale and scope of the kinds of stories being put to film. In the information age, the level of cultural insensitivity and exploitation exemplified in Emilia Pérez must be called out and addressed. Emilia wasn't held accountable, but the creators and industry backers of this movie sure as hell are going to be. Emilia Pérez is a film of almost exclusively female characters, but they are written with no thought or strength of character, and so the performances suffer. Zoe Saldaña as Rita is first shown to be underappreciated and struggling to get by. From the way she is treated by her less competent male colleagues, it could be interpreted as mistreatment due to her gender. She is treated like Emilia's workhorse, but they try to pass it off like Rita should be proud to be working for an organization that is built on a lie. And in the end, she's left to seemingly take care of the now orphaned children. She says that she is from Mexico multiple times when asked, but they shoehorn in her being from the Dominican Republic in a blink and you might miss it moment. I can't fault Zoe's performance, she's great as always, but the ridiculous songs did her no favors and the accent she has to put on while speaking English seems forced and comical at times. Karla Sofía Gascón, a Spanish trans actress, plays both pre- and post-transition versions of Emilia. She might be the titular character, but Rita's character truly is the lead. Emilia shown to be violent and possessive, not to mention incredibly unattractive pre-transition. You would think Narcos leaders would be better looking, but that might be just a myth created for TV. She is incredibly selfish and dishonest to everyone in her life aside from Rita. The fact that a murderous cartel leader is just a misunderstood trans woman and thus somehow deserves the audience's sympathy is absurd. She goes from the evil narco to a soft saint-like crusader, protector, and activist for victims' rights in the blink of an eye. There's no real reflection or examination of the fact that as the head of a violent drug cartel, she would directly be responsible for the conditions that led to the disappearance and murder of all these missing people. There's not even a clear show of remorse. The mother of a boy murdered by cartel violence kisses Emilia's hand upon returning his body to her, and Emilia's response is all about herself, saying that in that moment, for the first time, she loved herself. Emilia's final confession to Jesse about her true identity comes with a story about how they met when Jesse was only 17 and was dating Jesse's sister at first. If we go by their real age gap, it puts them about 20 years apart. So yeah, there's that. And to be clear, just because there's a trans character in a story, that doesn't make it woke. It's about the intent and execution behind their inclusion that matters. Is this a genuine character written with genuine intent or some kind of performative activism that will only benefit the author? There are only two notable side characters even worth mentioning. Adriana Paz, the only Mexican actress, plays Epifania, the fearful wife of a past cartel member and Emilia's eventual lover. It's never clear if Emilia confides in Epifania about her trans identity, but it's clear she doesn't reveal her criminal past. So this poor woman goes to Emilia's organization to find out if her abusive cartel-affiliated husband has been found, is relieved to find out he's dead, only to end up in a relationship with someone very similar to the husband she was so desperate to get rid of. And she is none the wiser. She even mourns Emilia, leading the final song and parade celebrating her as a saint. Edgar Ramirez plays Gustavo, Jesse's lover and what appears to be a rival crime figure, or he could be just another violent criminal, since that is all we ever find out about him. In the most blatant form of stunt casting, Selena Gomez as Jessie, Manitas' wife, is a shallow mob wife only interested in money and sex. In another case of a throwaway line, she mentions having a sister in the US, implying that she's American. So why isn't that used more? If you were intent on casting Selena Gomez, then do her and your movie a favor and work it into her character more. Have her speaking broken Spanish and be oblivious to half of what's going on. She could be an expat that decided to stay in Mexico after she met Manitas on holiday, as seen in movies like Man on Fire, to its credit, actually shot in Mexico. Or maybe she's running from something in the US. Any excuse to keep her predominantly speaking in English. If more care and time was taken to ensure she could act in Spanish, then she wouldn't be facing the criticism she is now for sounding so intelligible that even native Spanish speakers are unable to understand her without the subtitles.
I'm not as happy with what I feel like I could have done in Spanish, but overall, I hope that it doesn't hinder my performance, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Perhaps I could have had more time with it.
And it's not just fluency. She is unable to express what she's saying because she doesn't understand it. She kind of sounds like a robot that memorized its lines.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Qué bueno que viniste a mi casa, te quiero mucho.
Which is unfortunate because she can act and sing. She is legitimately talented in so many ways, but this wasn't it. With some Mexican critics calling to revoke her Latina card and notable Mexican voices giving their 2 cents. I wouldn't go that far, but they have a right to their opinion. Selena has since expressed remorse over her performance, but she continues to draw controversy over her clash of identity, posting a since-deleted video to her Instagram expressing deep sadness over the executive orders handed down by the Trump administration to begin deporting illegal migrants from the U.S.
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
As much as her heart was in the right place, maybe she should have thought of that before she agreed to be in a movie that perpetuates negative stereotypes about her own proclaimed people. Second and third generation Latinos growing up in the U.S. often face a great deal of cultural homelessness and a desire to prove themselves.
Hello, we're Mexican.
No, we are Mexican-American, and they don't like Mexican-American.
That's all the same. We want
and they
our
can be
lunch.
mean, and they can tear us apart over there. Being Mexican-American is tough. Anglos jump all over you if you don't speak English perfectly. Mexicans jump all over you if you don't speak Spanish perfectly. We got to be twice as perfect as anybody else.
The Latin diaspora has stretched far and wide, many making their way to the States like my parents when they moved here from Puerto Rico, but some aren't as lucky as I was to be able to go back a lot. Keeping hold of your ancestral roots can be difficult, but there's no shame in also embracing who you are as an American. Don't pretend to be something you're not. We have great modern-day examples of Latino stories that have to bridge the gap between two worlds, especially when it comes to language. Living in America can cause you to fall out of practice speaking Spanish or aren't raised to speak it fluently, but they retain a strong connection to their roots through travel, food, dance, and educating themselves about their native cultural traditions. Look to examples like Jane the Virgin and Cobra Kai, which portrays second and third generation characters replying to their Spanish-speaking family members in English. And we have actors like Eva Longoria, who rose to fame playing an Americanized Latina in Desperate Housewives, who only later in life learned to speak Spanish and has been connecting with her roots ever since and has maintained a good sense of humor about herself.
There's no bigger Latin star than the one who can't speak Spanish.
I'm fluent enough. Just when you talk really fast, I have no idea what you're saying. I mean, the reverse is true when I talk really fast in English. Do you have any idea what I'm saying?
Every word.
She doesn't know her line.
What you gotta do?
Stare down.
I'm cramping.
An actor is saying his lines, and then out of nowhere, he just starts singing.
From penis to vagina.
With a score featuring 16 original songs by two French artists, the musical numbers come out of left field and don't feel organic to the story. There's barely any flow to them, the melodies are almost non-existent, and the lyrics are so raw and unrefined, it leaves you wondering if they're supposed to be bad on purpose. Even in the case of Selena Gomez, who we know can sing. The choreography features a lot of small hand gestures that evoke interpretive dance, and the lyrics are laughable, especially in the case of the infamous and memed-on La Vaginoplastia, which is seriously straight out of a parody musical if I didn't know any better. I would have assumed this song was written by someone trying to mock gender affirmation surgeries akin to the Book of Mormon, but that would be an insult to the Book of Mormon, which yes, on the surface can be misinterpreted to be making fun of Mormons, but in the end redeem the missionaries, and the show is ultimately about belief, friendship, cross-cultural understanding, and faith. The Mormon Church has even embraced it, for the most part, even taking ads out in the playbills. If you couldn't tell, I love musicals. Music in a musical, whether that be in film or live theater, serves as a powerful storytelling tool that transcends language and culture. It expresses emotions that dialogue alone cannot capture, allowing characters to convey the depths of their joy, sorrow, love, or conflict in a universal way. For example, songs like I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis reveal a character's despair with raw intensity. Musical numbers also serve to drive the plot forward by showcasing pivotal moments and decisions. It deepens characters' development by providing insight into their internal world. Additionally, music enhances the atmosphere, immersing the audience in the story's setting and tone. At the same time, the spectacle of musical numbers, complete with choreography and ensemble performances, create unforgettable moments of entertainment, such as Defying Gravity or The Circle of Life. Music also bridges the gap between the real and the fantastical, making it easier for audiences to embrace the heightened emotions and unique scenarios of the genre. In this way, music is not just an addition, but an essential layer of storytelling in musicals, weaving emotion, character, and narrative into a cohesive and immersive experience. Take the songs away from Emilia Pérez, and it doesn't really change anything. They are neither immersive or pleasant to listen to. Even if you're not a huge fan of the story, great musical soundtracks can have another life outside of the play or movie they originate from. Take La La Land. I know plenty of people who didn't enjoy the story but agree the music is terrific. And speaking of La La Land, that too featured live raw singing that was meant to be unpolished. Unfortunately for Emilia Pérez, it didn't work here. It has no business being a musical except for the industry brownie points. Plus, they have no connection to the music traditions and sounds that are native to Mexico. The film industry has seen its fair share of culturally specific stories told through the medium of musicals. Take West Side Story and The Sound of Music, for example. The Sound of Music bombed in Germany and Austria, and the creators of West Side Story had limited knowledge of Puerto Rican culture and relied heavily on stereotypes rather than authentic representation. These musicals weren't made for the people they were about. But no shade to The Sound of Music, as you can't deny the quality of its music and its performances. Plus, Austria has benefited from the tourism it brings in from people wanting to visit the beautiful filming locations featured in the movie. West Side Story, on the other hand, did not prioritize cultural accuracy or consultation with Puerto Rican voices. This lack of authentic representation has been a long-standing criticism of the original 1961 film and the stage production, as they largely relied on non-Latino actors wearing dark makeup to portray Puerto Rican characters, which is ridiculous because we come in every shade you can think of. Even Stephen Sondheim admitted in later years that he had little understanding of Puerto Rican culture when writing the lyrics for songs like America, which reflected both their limited perspective and the broader systemic marginalization of Puerto Rican voices in American media at the time. And Steven Spielberg's 2021 adaptation didn't make the situation any better. The least they could have done was find a Puerto Rican actress to play the lead. It was an unnecessary remake and a huge flop. And Latinos don't get away with this either. 2021's movie adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights drew heavy scrutiny for not getting a Dominican-American actor for the lead when the character's Dominican identity is central to the plot. But there's bound to be a few exceptions. In the case with 1997's biographical musical of the slain Tejano singer Selena, a nationwide search resulted in Jennifer Lopez getting the role. Some outspoken fans expressed outrage over a Puerto Rican American playing the role of the beloved Mexican American singer from Texas, but it was with the blessing and praise from Selena's family, who were involved every step of the way.
As you just saw, she was an all-American girl, Texas-born, learned to speak Spanish for her fans. What did you think of Jennifer Lopez's portrayal?
She did a great job.
Great person. In spite of not knowing Selena personally, but just watching home videos and all that, I think she done an excellent job of capturing Selena's personality and her spirit.
Did you study her? What did you do?
Nonstop. From the second I got the role, it was nonstop. I was working on another movie at the time, and in my trailer it was like music all day, videos all day, just to really absorb who she was. You know, she was a very, very happy and alive person, and I wanted to play her that way. I couldn't play her, you know, with what the ending was.
And so, did you have to practice accents and everything? What'd you do?
Everything. She was from Texas, but American. Her first language was English. She had like a Tex-Mex accent, Tejano. And, you know, I'm from New York. So that's a totally different thing. And it was just capturing her essence, which was a big...
It has gone on to be considered one of the best biofilms ever made and gets me emotional every time I watch it. Why? Because it respected who she was, and J.Lo did everything she could to portray Selena as authentically as possible. That film highlighted how Selena only sang in Spanish, but was not fluent and didn't have the proper accent when speaking in Spanish.
Her Spanish. La prensa nos va a hacer pedazos. Nadie nos dijo que no hablaba bien el español. If only she could just keep singing.
Y me siento muy excited.
However, even native Mexicans would mostly come to admire her efforts to embrace her heritage. She was a proud Mexican American and was happy to represent both sides of herself. So the moral of the story is, do your research and learn from history. Don't treat ethnic minorities like they're one homogeneous blob that can be swapped out willy-nilly. And if you are going to cast someone not of that culture, that person must understand the responsibility they are taking on. It's baffling that situations like these still exist today. Even Disney knows better than to make a culturally specific story and not involve musical artists from said culture to write the music, or at the very least consult with to ensure that they are as authentic as possible to community that the musical tradition comes from. But since there's nothing really Mexican about this movie, I guess we can let them off the hook since they didn't even try. Like the train wreck that has been left in the wake of It Ends With Us, the controversies surrounding this film are honestly more interesting than the film itself, because when this is all over, it will be remembered for lack of authentic Mexican representation, harmful stereotypes, filming location, the director's comments, handling of trans themes, horrible music.
From penis to vagina.
So does Emilia Pérez deserve its 13 Oscar nominations? Let's not pretend this is some groundbreaking masterpiece. It's a visually passable, musically uncatchy mess that stumbles over its own ambitions. The viewing public in 2025 has come a long way since the 1910s birthed the film industry into existence. We crave authenticity more than ever in the stories we consume. Storytellers have no excuse in the age of instant information for cutting corners. If you want to craft a story about a lived experience other than your own, from a culture you do not belong to, you will be held accountable for turning out a lazy, inauthentic mess that serves no one and nothing because you thought you knew better. If you enjoyed the film, I in no way want to invalidate your feelings, but I hope you can acknowledge that the people whose lives are rooted in these very real and sensitive issues are unhappy with the accolades that are being showered upon it, which only serves to validate the falsehoods it portrays. Because to many it seems like a French director pandering to out-of-touch voters with a hard-on for stereotypical Latin American crime trauma whose Spanish immersion is akin to eating Taco Bell. And if this wins an Oscar, especially Best Picture, it will go down as the year that Scarface meets Mrs. Doubtfire with a little joke or two mixed in, somehow convinced everyone it was not only a good movie, but the best movie.
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes, 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 yes! But what do you think? Is Emilia Pérez a bold piece of transformative cinema, or is it just cultural tourism dressed up in festive Mexican aesthetic? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this, I would greatly appreciate a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more brutally honest takes on the world of film and media. Until next time, think critically and stay cultured.
Tuna una party card to the time. I don't speak no Spanish.
Oh, sorry, you don't speak Spanish?
Nah, but I only got one line. I'm gonna figure it out.